Welcome back, Guavesa, and today I would like to start off with thanking everyone that subscribed. We just hit 150 subscribers, so it means a lot. Specifically, I'm going to give a shout out to my first subscriber, Lucas Hart. Really appreciate it. I remember you at the very beginning. And my 22nd subscriber, Tau Pathfinder 334. I do really appreciate you. I remember you asking me to remember you in later videos, and trust me, I haven't forgot, or like remember you when I get big, and trust me, I haven't forgot. So today, for a treat, I figured that I'd give you guys a story of when I did Melee Tau, and it worked. And this was back in 9th edition, when we were still rolling with our 8th edition codex, which gave me a lot of things to work with. One of those being this thing called the Advanced Targeting System. The Advanced Targeting System was something that you could put on a number of battlesuits. And what it did was it improved the armor penetration characteristic of an attack by 1. And what that would do was not only affect all of your ranged attacks, but how it was written, it affected your melee attacks as well. So I very quickly went from hardly using it to putting it on all of my crisis suits all the time. I would run it so that if I ever needed, I could send my crisis suits in to start wailing away on someone with a bunch of Strength 5, AP-1, Damage 1 attacks. And armor penetration really ups your killing capacity, especially with Tau. When you hit bad, and when you do wound, it's really hard to actually get anything through, but you have AP on it, there's a good chance that people will fail saves. And around this time, I was deciding I'd run my pure crisis suit list. And let me tell you, this was, I think, its first debut in its entirety. I had set up if any of you watched my How Crisis Suits Are the Best video, you know I have my crisis suit set up in 3 different ways. I have the ones that'll hold my home field objective, loaded up with missile pods. I've got the ones that'll take the center, loaded up with flamers, and I've got ones that'll take my opponent's home objective and any of their big assets back there, and those guys are rocking Cyclics and Fusion. At this point in time in the game, you could take up to 9 crisis suits in one squad. So my midfield objective takers were 9 crisis suits. 8 of them carried all 2 fusions and the advanced targeting system, and 2 of them carried the airburst fragmentation projectors, shield gens, and the armor penetration advanced targeting system. There was a relic that you could give them at the time that made it so they could ignore AP-1 and AP-2 coming in. And those 2 suits had the Iridium armor. Like, they're pretty much the ones that would die first as I made my way up to the middle objectives. Accompanying them was Farsight, because I needed some melee help, some actual melee help. For my backfield objective holders, I had myself a bunch of the missile pod guys, and with them, I had a fusion commander with the iconic fusion blades. Very spicy. In case my opponent went the other flank and decided to take my home objective, I'd have somebody there that could actually fight him off fairly decently. And then I had the home objective holders were all missile pods with the advanced targeting system, so they had some melee bite as well. And then my deep strikers were loaded up with, I think there were 6 of them. 4 had cyclic ion blasters, 2 apiece with an advanced targeting system, and then the other 2 were full fusions. And so my game plan was really simple. I'd have my melee Tau run up the center and eat and kill everything there. My missile pod guys in the back shoot away. If anyone tried to take them on, I'd send the fusion commander into them. And for the final run-in, I'd send in my cyclic ion blaster teams, and they'd go charge into my opponent's home objective and tie him up after blowing them to smithereens. So I know what you're thinking right now. All right, Melee Tau. This is pretty stupid. What in the world are you running it up against? And I was up against Gunline Space Marines. So we both kind of traded positions, except this guy was Imperial Fists. So his shooting was top tier for Space Marines. He had brought a company command squad, which would be an issue because of all the melee characters in there and the healing of the apothecary. He had Centurions holding his home objective, the ranged ones. He had a Land Raider and a smattering of different Firstborn Marines. He was very much Firstborn oriented, like Tacticals, Vanguard, that's different stuff like that. And when I set up my guys, I noticed he dropped his Centurions. I had like 5 units to drop. He set up his Centurions on his home objective, looking to like pin down all the line of sights. And I was like, okay, I can't tango with those massive las cannons that these guys are hauling. My gun ranges won't be good enough until I deep strike my boys in, so I'm gonna have to wait. So I parked my crisis suits on the left flank with all their flamers and all their glory, with Farsight accompanying them. And when you park 9 crisis suits there, some are gonna be showing. So I couldn't hide them completely, but Farsight was hidden in the very least. On my other flank, where my objective was, on my right flank, I parked my missile pod guys, and I had my fusion commander there as well. And then I had the rest of my crisis suits held up in deep strike. So his response to me parking 9 crisis suits on the left flank was to set up his Land Raider right across from them. So I've got a bunch of guys with flamers and Farsight versing a Land Raider. Now, for those of you who don't know, a Land Raider during this edition was Strength 8 with the 2-up save and a 20-some-odd wounds, I believe. I had Flamers, which were Strength 4, and traditionally had no AP. I gave him the advanced targeting system, but he's still going to be saving on 3s. Sure, they auto-hit, but man, that's tough. So what happened was, I'm looking across the way, and I'm like, I gotta fish in order to kill this thing. That's not even to mention that it's got a ton of firepower in it. And if I fail any saves, I will be losing suits, because during this time, crisis suits only had 4 wounds, and I wasn't bringing any drones, because I hated drones. Screw those guys, I can do it just on my crisis suit might. So it was looking pretty dang rough, but I digress. His command squad was across the way hiding from my missile pods and my fusion guys, and they were going to come down and try to mess them up good. And the rest of his gun line was just hanging out by his home objective, hiding behind some ruins in the center of the board. So first turn came, and I'm freaking out. He advances the command squad up. He's going to be able to get a turn 2, maybe turn 3 charge off on my crisis suits that are holding my home objective. He moves the Land Raider up and is just ready to blow the heck away my crisis suits. All 9 of them. I sunk a lot of points into these boys. And then he moved his Centurions around to try to get some good angles to take them on as well. And he shoots, and shoots, and shoots, and shoots. And when the dust settles, I've lost 1 crisis suit. And his Land Raider is standing there on the left flank objective, staring at me. And I know in that moment, I'm gonna mess up his day, which most people probably wouldn't be thinking. So then it's my turn, and I move up with my flamers. I move up with my missile pods, and I move my fusion commander into cover, out of the way, because his guns aren't in range just yet. The missile pods plink away at an assortment of different troops that are coming up with the command squad, killing one of the squads they pointed at. I don't really remember what. And then I have my flamers open up. And at this point in time, there was a stratagem that you could spend, given to a commander. And what that stratagem did was give you +1 to wound in your shooting, if the commander was close by your unit and within certain range of the enemy unit. So I went from wounding this Land Raider, because my flamers are strength 4, eats T8, from 6s to 5s. And I had, oh yes, 8 suits with 2 flamers a pop. That's 16 D6 dice. Now, Orc players might think they roll buckets of dice, but let me tell you, I rolled buckets of dice. Oh my goodness. They popped off. They torched that thing. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, come on, 5s to wound. It's not that great. And I'm like, you're right. It's not that great. But I had a lot wound. And I know what you're thinking. Like, it's a 1/3 chance for me to get him to wound, and it's a 1/3 chance that he'll fail a save. But it went my way. It really went my way. And by the time I'm done, I've dropped him down to under 10 wounds. And we're looking ready for business. And I look at that and I'm like, I got Farsight and I got 8 crisis suits. Ooh, I can charge it and kill it in melee. So what I do is, I charge it. And there was a stratagem at the time that was called Furious Assault that Tau had. And what Furious Assault did was, for each battle suit model in the unit that you had, you could roll a dice during the charge phase. And for each 3+, you cause a mortal wound. And so I rolled the dice. for my 8 crisis suits that make the charge into the Land Raider, and I cause a handful of mortal wounds. So now I'm looking at about 5, give or take a couple, wounds to take off this Land Raider in combat. And then Farsight swings. He's got 1 or 2 wounds left when Farsight's done with him. And then I pop the strat that I've been waiting for this whole time. That I've been planning the whole edition to use with these guys. Sworn Bodyguards, where I get to reroll all hits and reroll all wounds a Crisis Suit Bodyguard unit nearby a character in combat. No, I wasn't pulling normal Crisis Suits, I was pulling the Bodyguards, because these guys got an extra attack apiece. And these guys had the availability to use that strat, and I knew that I was going to have to. And so, I'm hitting on 5s and wounding on 5s, but I'm rerolling everything. Hit a couple times on the first round, hit way more on the next. Wound a couple times on the next round, wound way more on the next. And he's got 7 saves to make to keep 1 or 2 wounds on this thing, and he's on 3 ups. And he fails all of them. And for icing on the cake, the Land Raider doesn't blow up. I ran Crisis Battlesuits into a Land Raider and killed it in melee combat. Probably the most epic thing I've ever done. And then I decided triumphantly to proclaim to my Discord server that I was a part of, because everyone at the gaming store that I attended used Discord to get in contact about games, to triumphantly proclaim my glory. To which I sent in the chat, because of autocorrect, "Guys, I just killed a landlady in melee combat." To which everyone started memeing on me justifiably. But I'd done it. I'd taken down an Imperial Fist Land Raider in melee with Tau Crisis Battlesuits. Best feeling ever. A little bit of hurt on my opponent. Probably reasonable that you lost something in melee to Tau. Turn 1. Can't blame him. Good guy, by the way. Wonderful chap. Nothing bad to say about him. Really good sport. So the game continued. And on his turn, he moved up his Imperial Fists a bit more, started blasting on my home objective, and decided that he was going to try to make a longer charge into my commander hiding in cover with the fusion blades, so that eventually the next turn he'd be set up to get the missile pod crisis suits. So he goes for it, and he fails, which left his company command squad standing out in the wind, waiting, just waiting for my fusion commander to come duel all of the characters. So what happens is, it's my turn, and I drop down a Crisis Bomb, but he'd screened me out pretty good, so they were going to be pretty useless. They weren't going to shoot everything they wanted to. But they were going to point at one thing. I was going to pop the 2 CP in order for them to get drop zone clear, and they'll kill the one thing I want them to point at and kill. Haven't touched the Centurions yet. I move my midfield Flamer squad, who had taken a couple casualties because the Centurions turned their guns their way and had blown a bunch of them up. I wasn't able to string them out in such a way to take 2 objectives. But they were going to be able to cover a bit, and they were going to be durable enough based on the rest of my guys coming in that they'll be able to hold the objective they're sitting on, and Farsight might be able to go try to duel the Centurions on his home objective. But that was going to be a turn 3 sort of thing. Then I move out my missile pod guys. They blow up another tactical squad, I'm pretty sure. Another troops choice that he's got running up against me. I bring up my fusion commander. He starts lighting up this company command squad. He takes out the medic with 1 fusion blast. And then he takes out the captain with another, and all that's left standing there is the company champion. And we were having a fun game. Because these Imperial Fists, in the lore, you know how they're related to the Black Templars. So this wasn't just any company champion. This was the Black Templars company champion that he had in his story on loan from the Templars. And that's the rules we were using. So a typical company champion, he's alright. He's pretty good in melee. The Black Templars company champion, absolute beat stick. And I look at him and I think, oh, my fusion commander can take you. And so, if y'all remember what I did last go around, I charge him in. I pop the CP to do a mortal wound on him in the charge, and then I've got 2 fusion blades swinging. And in this edition, you only got 2 attacks for the fusion blades, and the commander has 4 in total. 2 attacks are strength 5, no AP, hitting on 3s. 2 other attacks are strength 8, AP minus 4, D6 damage, also hitting on 3s. I swing with fusion blades, both hit, both wound, 1 failed save. He CP rerolls it, still fails, and I roll and get the big 6, slicing the Emperor's champion in half. And the writing was on the wall at that point. I held all the midfield objectives. I was closing in on his home field. He had had 2 brutal losses in melee combat, and more were to come. We played it out a little bit more. Centurions destroyed my deep striking crisis suits, but I held more of the board, and Farsight came in to do a little chopping up on the home objective. To be fair, it was kind of entire annihilation. But I had fun running what I enjoyed. I still do feel bad for how badly I beat him, but he was a good sport. He was always nice. He smiled every time. We went back and forth in the melee rounds. It was a very nice chat about everything. So, anyways, I've been holding out on you guys on the story, and I did want to do something special because I appreciate everyone subscribing and being so supportive. So, if there's anything, any other stories you want me to tell you guys about my melee exploits, let me know. And if there's any other videos you want in particular, let me know. I love making stuff for you guys, and I notice we don't really have that good of the Tau kind of guy doing things really consistently. So I wanted to give people stuff all the time that they could always enjoy, because that's what I wanted when I started out. So I hope that I'm giving it to you, and all of your days go for the greater good.